priest said, for a glass of milk filled to the brim and a bowl of sugar. And he took teaspoons of sugar and added it to the milk. And he said, look, this isn't going over the brim. So we are just like the sugar. We will actually just, meld into into culture, into your space.
Could you talk about your faith, Zoroastrianism?
We have 3 words that forms the basis. It's called good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That is the principle of the Zoroastrian religion. So you should always think good things. And when you speak well. When I go back to Bangalore, there's still lots of people, when they look at me, they say, oh, have you come? Are you reopening? So it's a good feeling. We left a very good legacy. I can chat with my postman. Do you think I could chat with the postman back home? The bus driver, you say good morning, you say have a good day. Do we do that? No. So it's also respect. No matter what job you have here, that's a huge, huge difference. And I'm talking India, the Western countries, it's different. But when you come from India, that is a huge change.
Before we get started, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode of our cutting-edge contemporary conversations. Thank you.
Welcome, Zarine. How are you?
I'm good. And thanks for having me here.
Thank you for coming around and, getting ready to have a chat, being unprepared.
Yeah. Yes.
Before I delve into the whole idea and what I'm intrigued in terms of the question I want to ask you, could you tell a bit more about your story? Where were you born and your growing up and your early years in your life, and
Sure. So I must say I was very fortunate to grow up in a very loving, close-knit family. I grew up in Mumbai. I'm the eldest of 3 girls. And we had grandparents that they always lend a wonderful, wonderful angle to children growing up, which is good for my grandchildren because we live together and I see now the difference. So, I had absolutely great role models. My maternal grandfather was very distinguished. He was secretary to the President of India. So the kind of knowledge that he was able to share with us, and somehow he just knew about everything. Great man, and yet extremely humble. Great learning again. Both my grandmothers, very educated. So we grew up in a home that was always filled with a lot of education, literacy. And Parsis, by and far, are very educated and very literate. My father, unfortunately, lost his father at a very young age, so I didn't know my paternal grandfather. But obviously, in the few years that he did spend, he gave my father a very strict sense of right and wrong. So we had that angle as well. My aunt is a professor, so we had that bit of education. So, as I said, a very, very fulfilling life growing up. Then I studied in very good institutions, and I always say there is absolutely no substitute for a good education. And then I got married pretty soon after I finished college. And a couple of years later, I moved to Bangalore. So I've literally spent half my life in Bombay and then the rest half in Bangalore, by which time I had a 4-year-old son. And Bangalore, I worked for Citibank for many years, moved from Citibank to GE when they opened their consumer durable business in Bangalore. Then when, the corporate world can get a bit much after a while. And I think the higher you go, the more the demands on your time and everything has to be just dropped and you have to be able to satisfy everybody. And I said, enough is enough. So then I left the corporate world, started a very small business running a cyber cafe. In those days, everybody didn't have a computer at home.
Yeah.
So I had this nice little cyber cafe where I did everything. I would do data entry. I had a fax machine. I had a photocopying machine. People come and rent by the hour. And it was doing really well. And then they started saying, could we have some tea and coffees, anything to eat? And at that time, Bangalore was very small. It was amazing how it's changed, because today I think it has probably the maximum number of restaurants any city could have. But in those days, there was hardly anything. So then I started with little snacks. I would have these little sandwiches and these little submarine rolls. Then the neighbors started asking for it. And so I started venturing. And then by then, the computer business was slightly dropping because now computers had come in. So I said, we can move to having a restaurant business. Why not Parsi food? So I started with 3 items, 4 items, and then people was like, nobody knew who a Parsi was actually in Bangalore. Though we do have, but we're very, very small in Bangalore. So they were like, this is some new cuisine. And then the demand built, so moved from a small location. I'm telling you, 18 years in a very short span of time, but moved to a larger place and had a bustling restaurant business. So I was the only Parsi restaurant in Bangalore. Moved, built the business, customers became friends. And then my son decided to be a chef. So he went off to Sydney to do his at Le Cordon Bleu. And after being in Sydney for about 5 years, studying and working, he decided to come back and help with the business. So then we really grew, because then we had contemporary cuisine as well, but we never stopped Parsi food. It's a part of our culture, and we wanted to keep that there. And 17 years ran the business till the kids, by then they were married, had 1 kid, decided they want to come back to Australia. So I remember him saying, Mom, this business is as much your baby as I am. Are you willing to close it and move with us? And I said, I think by then it's a very hard life. Running a restaurant is almost non-stop. It's not like you put clothes on a rack and you wait for them to sell until your next lot comes. You've had a good day today, but tomorrow is still another day. They say you're only as good as your last meal. So you've got to start all over again. So it is very, very tiring. You have no other life. You have no social life. But we loved it. I loved the it was a family-run restaurant, so it's a completely different vibe. And now when I go back to Bangalore, there's still lots of people, when they look at me, they say, have you come? Are you reopening? So it's a good feeling. We left a very good legacy. And then we moved to Perth. And now I'm retired. No more restaurant and no more anything. So that's basically been my life. Yeah, I have only 1 son, married, with 2 grandsons.
Lovely. You use the word Parsi, and that's probably one of the part of your identity, very strong. Could you explain the identity, the idea of what Parsi is and who they are, and then what's a bit of a genesis story on Parsis?
Okay, sure. So maybe I need to go back a little bit in history. So the Parsi has their roots in what is today Iran, or was then Persia. And Persia was vast, so it was a huge empire. It stretched from, in the north, you had the Black Sea, Caspian Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, down to the Indian Ocean, all the way to the Indian border. So what is today your Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, etc., Iran, part of Egypt. It's a huge empire. And Zoroaster, who is our prophet, preached, it is the first monotheistic religion of the world. It's the oldest one. And from that, in fact, a lot of the other religions of Christianity and Islam, etc., have actually had their roots. And so he preached for almost 1,000 years till the Sasanian dynasty, which is when the Arab Muslims invaded Persia. And then to avoid the persecution and conversion, the Parsis, well, they say a handful of Parsis fled Iran and sailed on a boat which took them to the shores of India. That's how we moved to India. There are still lots and lots of Parsi Iranis in Iran today. And there are lots who are originally Iranis who are not Parsis. By default, they would be Muslims, though they have their own customs. So it's really still a very different sect of people. So the Parsis that moved, or rather the Persians that moved to India were then known as Parsis because Pars is the original word for Persia. And then so Parsi from Pars. So we landed on the shores of Gujarat at a place called Sanjan. And I don't know if you know the story about the sugar in the milk. Okay.
Please do.
So when we landed, the king was Jada Rana, and he said to the high priest that there is no place for anybody here. You know, we're like self-sufficient and we can't include you. So the priest said, could I have ask for a glass of milk filled to the brim and a bowl of sugar? And he took teaspoons of sugar and added it to the milk. And he said, look, this isn't going over the brim. So we are just like the sugar. We will actually just, meld into into your culture, into your space. We will not stand out, and we will be a part of it. And so the king said, okay, on 4 conditions. He was, of course, I presume, very impressed. And his only conditions were that you follow the language of our people. So our mother tongue is Gujarati. You wear this, the women will dress in the same style. So we do wear the sari the way the Gujaratis wear it. You will not bear arms, and you will have your wedding ceremonies after sunset, which we do even to this day. Those were his only conditions. And so we settled. So basically, we were agriculturists to begin with in Gujarat. And even today, a lot of Parsis have what is called wadis or orchards, chiku and mango, which are there in Gujarat, in Danu and things, lots of them. And then we were also coastal people. So fish became a very intrinsic part of our diet. And it's also a very auspicious, it's had on auspicious occasions. So you also see how food becomes a part of your culture by the geography. Yeah. And then when the British, by about the 17th century, commerce was getting big in the cities. So people the Parsis moved from these small villages, in Gujarat to bigger cities, Surat, Mumbai. And by the 18th century, they were getting quite wealthy because they were innately very skilled people. And so they were contributing to the growth of the country and very, very much in with the British in terms of building for them, shipyards. And then you started getting the names that were connected to the trade. So engineer, lakra wala. Lakra is wood. So maybe the guy was dealing in wood. You have daru wala. So actually, it's not, daru may mean alcohol, but it's actually medicine. So somebody dealing in medicine got that name. So trade names started. It was easier for the British to remember you by that rather than your real name. And of course, they were also getting names from villages that you came from. So Sanjana would be from Sanjan and Bodhanwala would be from Bodhan, etc. And then they And they were great entrepreneurs. So the houses of Tatas, Wadias, Godrej, so all thanks to the entrepreneurship that they had. And this was something that was very innate. I mean, nobody taught them anything. And that's how we became an integral part of India. And we've had freedom fighters, we've had industrialists, we've had, you name it, we're in every field. In Bombay, some of the best doctors are Parsis. So in any field and every field, we are, I think, only 80,000 or so worldwide, but definitely left a mark and something I'm very proud of.
Could you also make me understand the difference between the word Farsi, Parsi, Persian, and what's the close linkage with these words?
So Persian now, I wouldn't call, so we have, like, for instance, even in Perth, we have the Iranis, Zoroastrian Iranis, and we have the Zoroastrian Parsis. While our roots are very much the same, the Zoroastrian Iranis speak their own language, have their own food. Their food is quite different from what we have. Their rituals are different from what we have. And yet we are all from Persia. The Parsis have got a lot of the Indian customs, and our food there is nothing like Parsi food. See, Irani food is very traditionally Persian. The Parsis, their food, it's an amalgamation. As I said, we were greatly influenced by the British. So we have a dish called laganno custard, which is a dessert. Lagan meaning wedding, custard. So it's a custard that's traditionally served at weddings. But it's a take on the bread and butter pudding of the British. Parsi homes had Goan cooks. So your vindaloo, your curry has come from there. Fish, I said, was because we were on the coast of Gujarat. We also, the Gujaratis have that little sweet dal, they add sugar. We do the same thing. So there is nothing like Parsi cuisine. It's an amalgamation of a whole lot of different cuisines that we've just tweaked as we've come along. So that's the difference between, so there's not Persian anymore. The language that's spoken by the Iranis is Farsi or Dari. And we speak Gujarati. So there is that difference. So we've changed because we're in India. And we've adapted to that. So that's the difference.
Could you talk about your faith, Zoroastrianism, and initially introduced about your prophet? But could you talk a bit more on that faith? And if I have somebody new who want to understand what that faith means and stands for, what are the values of those faith?
Okay, very simple. We have three words that forms the basis. It's called Humta, Hukta, Huvarashta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That is the principle of the Zoroastrian religion. So you should always think good things. And when you speak well. And of course, good deeds is probably in the highest in that order. We are philanthropists by nature. So all the years you've seen these industrialists, they've got hospitals, libraries. It's again an innate nature for a Parsi to be generous and giving to those who will need it more than you will. We don't believe in fasting, so to speak. You are supposed to enjoy your life. So life is to be enjoyed, to be lived well with family. As I said, we do not bear arms, but we love fighting with our mouths. I can assure you, the Parsis love it. So I think we're basically a very peaceful group of people. What do they say? Khawanu, pivanu, moj maja. So eat, drink, make merry. for any occasion, that's it. So we will celebrate Christmas not because we believe in Christmas, because it's an occasion to celebrate. We will celebrate Diwali because maybe we can go to friends and have fun. So it is about really enjoying life. So there is the priests don't have to, they can be married and have families. It's different from what maybe the Christians believe in. So the Catholics rather. So in that sense, it's enjoy, but the respect of elders is, honestly, I think personally, all religions have the same thing. It may be said, don't you think everybody says good thoughts, good words, good deeds is what you're supposed to do?
Very much.
So it's simple. That's the Zoroastrian way of life. Just respect your elders, live a good life, treat people well. Everybody's a human being. I think that's how I profess my religion. I don't think you have to go to we worship fire. Let me also bring that in. Our place of worship is called the fire temple, and only the Parsis can enter a fire temple. We don't have a fire temple here in Perth. You have also grades of fire temples. You can have the one that's on a higher scale and the one that's a small one, and you can have a fire so I'm sorry, I don't know all the details of that, and I do not go into that because I'm not intensely religious. I believe I have my connection with God is the good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And I think even at home, that's how we were brought up. Zoroastrian values. So we do worship fire, and we do not believe in cremation or burial. Now, when I say that, I'm talking from the India point of view, because abroad you have no choice. We have a different system of how we deal with the dead. So it goes back to ancient times. When people died in Iran, they were taken atop of a mountain or a very high hill and left there. It's like saying, "Dust thou art, to dust returneth," as the Christians believe. Since we worship fire, we cannot cremate. We do not want to defile the earth, because for us, nature we do worship all kinds of nature. So that in those days, it was left to nature. The animals would come, it was back, you didn't have to do anything with the body, and you didn't have to defile any part of nature. So that custom has carried on, and in India, it's still there. We have areas where we do dispose of the body. Now, here in Perth, you have no choice. It is either a cremation or a burial. So you have to adapt if you move out of India. But there are lots of people who still very much believe in that. That's how you should be giving your body at the end of it.
No. In the growing up in a very family which is everybody are giving you a lot of knowledge and at a young age, so how has that formed your worldview? Because if people are fairly highly educated around you, or not very, they understand the politics, the economics, and what's happening, rather than just being told through the media and the newspaper. So you have a bit more filtered or more a clear view rather than more of a hazy view of what things are happening. How has that changed your worldview of things, the way you look at things, the way you problem solve, the way you look at challenges in your life?
I think the first thing is, though we're three girls, I don't think my parents ever made a distinction between, had you been boys, it would have been different. We were made to think broadly. We were actually, we were taught to question and not, maybe they regret it, because I was a really bad teenager. I think I just questioned everything to the other extreme. But we were always taught to question why you're doing something, understand why you're doing something. You don't have to have blind faith. And because I think we were exposed to so much, I would say a lot. My grandfather actually was a wonderful storyteller. And because we lived very close, we had apartments just across from each other, spent hours and hours listening to him. And lots of qualities that came through. And also how you see the world, because for instance, I'm talking very personally, I do not see the world as black and white. There's very little black and there's very little white, and there's huge amount of gray. Mm-hmm. So for me today, I find it very easy to accept people because they don't necessarily need to be like me. You are who you are. And if I want you as a friend, I have to accept you as you are. If I don't like what I see, well, then I can move away. I cannot expect you to change because it doesn't suit me. Mm-hmm. And I think that is tolerance and acceptance. You must understand that you cannot change people. And I think I learned that also when I got married and realized that I can't change. Maybe I wanted to change somebody to suit me, but it doesn't work like that. So you do learn the hard way. Life is a very good teacher. So I think that is what we have, because I see my sisters also, and I see our children, and we realize how it's important for us to hand down the values that we've learned. So our children are extremely tolerant of everything, the way you mingle, the way you accept people for who they are. I think even in my leadership roles, understanding people, knowing that I cannot put a square peg in a round hole. As a leader, I have to understand that it is my duty to find the square to fit the square. It is not, you will not change. And I think that broad view of life is something that I picked up along the way. And mistake not, I think my father is fairly traditional in his views, but yet he never put on blinkers. He never told us this is the only way. So they have let us be who we are. They've loved us for who we are. They've tolerated my sisters actually are very good girls. I'm the only troublesome one. But I think just having a wonderful support system in terms of family is just, there's no substitute for that.
And I think that thought process of the way you said, you're trying to ask questions, and the more questions you ask, the more clarity you have.
Yeah.
And the solution becomes fairly apparent. You don't need to say this is a solution, but the solution becomes more apparent because you asked so many questions.
Correct.
So the solution is yes. That's how you should be. That's logical. And then is that the same spirit toward entrepreneurship and same spirit towards solving problems and giving people right solutions for their problems? How is that spirit being educated or transferred to the next generation now?
So I do believe that actions speak louder than words. And though I don't really have... So when kids grow up, when I say grow up, when you're in your 30s and 40s and you have a parent who tells you, you're like, excuse me, but I know everything. And what is it that I can learn from you? And I find all my friends say the same thing about their kids. Mm-hmm. I don't think my kids have ever told me that, but you'll get a sense of it, we know what we're doing. But so I think the best way is actually to do something and show that that's working. So I try to practice whatever it is in the hope that they will pick up, because I think I have picked up a lot from my parents, just seeing them do things. And I hope my grandsons will see and follow in the same footsteps. So saying is one thing, but if you actually do it, it makes a huge difference. So, and I believe it in everything. It's not only in the home environment. If I expect something of my colleagues on, let's say, my Zoroastrian Association committee, I will do it, and they will follow suit. You'll realize it happens. You don't have to push. If you do it, it automatically sets an example. And I think that's also something I've learned growing up, because that's what we saw. My mother, I think, is a great example of just doing it. And today, I mean, touch wood, my parents, my dad has crossed 90, my mother's 87. They're still great role models because we watch them. They do their own thing, completely independent, doing their own stuff, and still going about life as best they can in the, for an age of 90 and 87. So I think the actions are, that's my message. I don't have to sit down and talk to people. That's how I would do it.
That those relationships, nurturing those relationships, as in with your grandparents, with your family, with your aunties, and with your friends. Why are relationships? One is, how do they craft you? And how does your grandsons are interacting with you, and how is those relationships are critical and important to build that the idea of gray, not the black and white.
It is extremely important. Relationships, whether it be family, friends, business connections, I found that network is, you need it all your life. Keep them, build them. My sisters and I have an absolutely fabulous relationship. It's one, siblings, I would think, is one of those where, you're not judged. You can do any damn thing and they will not judge you. And I would not do anything to ever jeopardize that relationship. Because the kind of support you have, even though I'm here, they're in India, and of course now thanks to WhatsApp, it's an everyday conversation. But so for instance, when my son was growing up, and he's an only child, his connections with his cousins remained, even though we were in Bangalore, they were in Bombay. It's not like we were meeting that often, but we managed to maintain it because I think my sisters and I had that good. So it kind of filtered through. And for every generation, it's important to maintain that so the next generation has it. You can't say, I will only do it for myself, right? That you need to give back somewhere. And I think if you do it, you will make sure that it follows. And of course, you prod a little bit. Tell my son, have you spoken to Granny, Papa, my parents? Have you, or message, it's so-and-so's birthday message. If I can prompt it helps them to keep those connections alive. Even in business, I think it's very important to maintain. I mean, today, if I were to pick up the phone and ask for some help from a friend in Bangalore, I'd get it because I've maintained those. So it is important. I'm not saying you need to write a message every day. Somewhere you have to find, I think respect is very important. If it's a business connection, like I'd say all my vendors, there was never a delay in payment because find out what's important to people and then maintain that. So the thing is to look outwards more than you're looking at yourself. So I would say relationships, no matter what, is the basis for a happy, rounded, healthy life.
And running a successful small business, what are as you're running and as you would grow and then you have team members who are working for you in your restaurant, how do you create that? How do you transition the idea of that I'm the owner of the business, I can do so much things for the business, but the same cultural and same behaviors and same ideas to deliver a good customer service, how do you bring that to the front line for a small business?
Again, I would say let them watch you do it. Our training was always shadow me, see what I'm doing. It's not easy because don't forget you're coming from culturally very different. Your staff comes from culturally, economically very different background from what you've come. They've not had that kind of education or that kind of exposure to the world. So the idea, I would think, is to build it very gradually. I'd say this is really important. This is what we need to do for our customers. I'll give you a very small example. A lot of Indians have this attitude that if a foreigner steps into your place, you will treat him differently than you would treat your fellow Indian. It is a very subtle difference. I would see it. They'd run immediately. It's like, and I would wonder, it initially like, what is different? For me, he's a customer. But I forget that I have been exposed to it, so it's not strange for me. But for them, they would think, Bara Saab, white man. And I'd have to try to tell them there is no difference. For us, all customers are the same. Old, young, black, white, makes no difference. So those are very obvious teachings. And then you have ground rules. I had ground rules, this is how we treat customers. This is where we say yes. We can't say no. We have to find out how we say no. And also, I think, give them an idea of what is the essence of your business. Ours was a family place. We never turned away single women. And I have been turned away from restaurants because it's a busy night and they don't want to occupy a table they don't want to occupy the table for a single woman. And I said, never. You will never ask a woman to leave or not let her be comfortable here. So it became a haven. So I think what's important to you, you have to be able to transfer that. And we managed to do. It's not easy, but it takes time. But you've got to go on and on and on. So whatever is your essence has to get. You cannot run the business with your values if your staff are not promoting the same. So I think we were successful when that was concerned. I was fortunate later in life to have my daughter-in-law and my son be a part of it. So it was a very family run. In fact, my little grandson was, at 6 weeks, he was in the restaurant with us. We'd converted part of our office into a sort of a nursery, and we'd hitch him onto our hip and we'd be taking orders. And as he grew up and he could sit, the customers would say, let him, he's so cute. And he was very cute. And he would sit on their lap and he would munch from their, it became that kind of, so, that was the environment we'd built.
Wow. And in terms of, creating a relationship and maintaining more personal relationships, from a business point of view, how do you draw a line that, how do you expand your network? And in terms of not just customer service, but, having ongoing relationships with clientele.
Give me a little more, a broader understanding of what you want.
So, for example, in running a small business, you have to have a lot of, your network has to be much bigger. Your business depends on your network and how you grow your network. And when do you know your growth of your network is enough or less? How do you decide? And in that journey, when you say, oh, yes, I've done enough of networking, now I can just, harvest what I have or, work with what I have.
I don't think there's an end to it. Look, I think it will, after a point, actually start working on its own without you if you've built a good enough name. It'll multiply and it'll compound. But I don't think you can ever stop building because you will always need that network. I don't think I have stopped even now. I mean, I have a connect. different things. They were like business vendors. I still have a connect. If I'm doing some program in Bangalore when I go there. So I'm also a part of the World Zartusi Chamber of Commerce, and we have an annual event. I will still network with all those people. Can you supply this? And do you have this? And even the meat guy, he'll be like, aap aaye, so you can't stop networking. You have to keep those. And to build clientele, there is no end. I don't think there's any, I've done enough, now I will not. No, I don't think that is. So you've not only got to nurture the network you've built, but you've got to go on with it, because nurturing that network is more effort than actually creating new ones. So I think that you need to have the connect still.
From that story of the milk and sugar, your son and your daughter-in-law, came to Australia, and then now you have moved here. And how is that assimilation story working for you? What's the idea of assimilation for you? What it means for you when you come to Australia?
I think first thing you have to remember that you are the foreigner in the country, and you will have to adapt. Okay, let's say from mine. We will have to adapt to the country, not the country adapting to our needs. So come with the understanding that is. And also know that you will have to follow whatever rules are, laws are, guidelines are. That's the way. If it's an acceptance, you will meld. People will be different. The way they function, everything is different. For instance, the first time, look, the man and the woman have equal roles to play here. It was very different from India. I remember the first party that I attended at a friend's, and some of us were still eating, and I noticed her husband went to start washing the dishes and load the dishwasher. And I was absolutely astounded. Can you imagine back in India that happening? No, it doesn't happen. Firstly, you will not have an open kitchen, and no man will go to the kitchen to rinse the dishes. So for me, I was stumped till I realized why he's doing it, because the dishwasher will need about 3 loads, and then he will be up till 3 o'clock if he waits for us to leave. And so the men do everything. And now I know all the husbands of my friends will be doing the dishes. So when you move, you understand life is going to be very different. It's small. What is BYO, bring your own? Have you heard of it in India? Nobody does it in India. I would be very insulted if somebody said, bring your own wine and come to the party. But it's accepted. Everything is BYO. You have parties where, I remember my son when he was in college said, Mom, wait, I'm taking my friends to so-and-so restaurant. I said, but do you have enough money or shall I send? He said, no, everybody will pay for their own. I said, which kind of party is this? Because you see, so culturally it's very different. But if you accept that, yes, this is what it is and this is how it's going to be, then assimilation is not a problem. Again, I'm talking from point of view where we've been exposed to the world. I think that makes it easier. If you haven't, it's definitely difficult. We speak the language, we speak English fluently, we're able to converse with people. That does make a lot of difference. So I am talking from a privileged point of view. I don't think it's that easy for everybody.
And what do you think people, when somebody is coming as a migrant or a foreigner to a country and then choosing to have Australia as their home, in your observation, what kind of blinkers do people do carry not to assimilate? What do you think is stopping them to assimilate or to understand, to accept the culture and the nature of the country?
I think it's being able to find the balance between your culture and the new one. Because I do think it's important for you to retain your culture as well. I mean, honestly, I do talk to my grandsons in Gujarati, but it's not working. But I would not want to give up mine. it's to find that middle ground that allows you to have your culture, to continue. But again, you cannot just have that. Even it's as simple as a form of dress. Maybe your form of dress is not allowing you to assimilate into the foreign culture. It could be as simple as that. You have to be able to say, I will wear this dress, but I will wear it when it's not right and wrong. It's just being able to find the correct mix. And language is another big thing. I find it's also for the older people. So let's say the grandparents come along with their children. For them to assimilate, it's very difficult. You get very set in your ways as you get older. And here you are in a completely new country. And you're not fluent with English. You're wearing clothes that honestly, don't fit into that culture. You can have your own, but it still helps you assimilate.
I think between the families, between multi-generations, I think the language is important for the younger ones to interact with you.
Absolutely.
I think that is critical.
It is.
I think there are two different ways of seeing the culture. One is your internal, what's happening in your household.
Yeah.
So that can be whatever you feel like, and what is appropriate for your family.
Correct.
And one is what's happening outside your household.
Yeah.
At work, what's acceptable behavior. At shops, what is acceptable behavior.
Absolutely.
In public life.
Absolutely.
So I think that has to be more people agree with basic rules, how to behave, and what civil society means like and sounds like. Whereas in the house, families can follow the way they want to live their life.
Yeah. You also realize for children who are going to school, if they don't have the English language skills that is required of that age, they have the problem then. So it's not a one thing. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take us time, but as I said, both my son and my daughter-in-law have studied.
If I have to go back centuries, as you talked about, when the Parsis initially came to the shores of India, the language, they never forced the language on them. So the language was not critical as the idea of their own values.
Yeah.
So the values had stayed the same. The values which they were living with way before, and when they landed, and they became good because the values were the same.
Yeah.
Language could be different. What they're eating can be different, but the values, how they behaved, how they interacted with people, was same, and that's
very true. Because when my son wanted to marry my daughter-in-law, and she's a Telugu, the only thing I could see in common were the family values. And that assured me that she would completely fit into our family. And she did. So what you're saying is absolutely right. If those values are similar, your assimilation is really that much easier.
And that sometimes I see as you come to Australia also, an Australian values of giving a fair go, giving everybody a fair chance.
Yeah.
Treating your neighbors as your friends,
Correct.
calling everybody mates.
Yeah.
So the idea of mateship and then giving a fair go are the core values. And then we have been raised with those values. We will give everybody a chance. We'll not
Absolutely.
say no to you. Everybody is welcome.
Look at the respect for no matter what job you have. I can chat with my postman. Do you think I could chat with the postman back home? The bus driver, you say good morning, you say have a good day. Do we do that? No. So it's also respect, no matter what job you have here. The construction worker, there is the dignity of labor. That's a huge, huge difference. And I'm talking India, the Western countries, it's different. But when you come from India, that is a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that when I travel on the bus and I see new Indians having moved here, and they won't do it initially because they're not used to it. They'll just quickly get off the bus. But the ones who've been here for a while now learn.
Yeah.
So it's really learning the ropes, as you go along. And if you're open and said, well, this is what the life I'm going to have, and I better just do it because that's the way it is.
You are leading a good, healthy, fulfilling, and successful life. What are the key takeaways of all those, challenges in your life and learnings?
Oh my gosh, there's lots of learnings, I think, in life. Well, I don't know. Do you want me, is just general, or you want me to be specific about?
You can start with general, and then, then we can talk examples if we have.
Okay, as I said, to me, maintaining relationships, whether they're family or friends or business, that's very important. Respecting people is very important, and looking at the positive. As I said, the gray area is huge. Accepting people for who they are and knowing that people have different facets. You could have a facet that is not so great, while you may have a facet that's absolutely astoundingly superb. So human beings are a varied lot. And you will come across people and you will have to accept them for who they are. That's my huge learning. And that's why I live a fairly peaceful life, because I don't worry about, he's like this or he's like that. It doesn't bother me, people. I have a good relationship with you, it's fine. And I have learned to gauge how friendly I can be with you, or, how much distance I will maintain. You can't possibly be friends with everybody. So friends you can count on one hand, acquaintances, I have millions. So there's also you learn to also categorize your network people in that manner. I'm a huge believer in a very organized life. I know I drive a lot of people insane, but for me, I believe if I'm organized, no matter what it is, whether it's paper-based or organized here, or just generally, I feel it gives me my clarity of thought, and I can get a lot more done. So I know I must be driving my kids nuts at home, but I do believe, do it right the first time. That was my learning when I started working in Citibank. Do it right the first time, because it saves you time, it saves you effort. You don't wait to hunt around, where the hell have I put this? I'm hoping that my children will learn that, but so far it's not happened. So organization in life, I think, is very big. With that, and also, but having said that, don't be a stickler, because you have to allow yourself to adapt. This is a trait that my son has just got brilliantly. Since he's been a kid, I've watched him adapt so well to situations in life. And that is a big plus. So I am very adaptable. I mean, I came to Perth at the age of 56. And it was, for the first time in my life, I didn't have my own home or my own car. I didn't have a job. And you're in a new, and the older you get, you've already got a set of friends now. You've got to make new ones. Everything is different. But I was able to adapt, and I think adaptability is a great strength. And that's the challenge of life, If you can adapt, you're way better.
Yeah.
But these are good things, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing these.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Thank you.